Hey everybody, welcome into To The Point podcast. Hope you're all doing well on this Thursday. What a beautiful Thursday it is. Feels like summer today. Just phenomenal. Makes you feel better. It's October. We're almost midway through the month of October. You get a 20-degree day. You can't. Only thing would be better if it was like this all the time. I lived in Miami, which of course is a dream of mine, but we can't have everything all at once. I'm 24. I guess I'll have to wait. I'll have to wait to have all that success and live in a warm climate. But something we can celebrate. Well, number one, I can celebrate that I have internet. Yesterday, pardon me, I was doing a show and my internet cut out. About 24 minutes into the show, I was on a great all time rant about the amount of serial killer shows in the atmosphere right now on the platforms. That's on Facebook. If you want to go watch that video, there's a video of me going on for about 20 minutes about how there are too many shows involving serial killers, about Ted Bundy and all these other guys. I don't want to go back into it. It was really a rant about the Dahmer show. So that's up there. Some of my best work, honestly. Really thought about it, really deep. 20 minutes of just really great thoughts. So that's on yesterday until my internet abruptly cut out and I couldn't get into any of these sports from the night before. But it is Thursday. Wednesday has hence passed us, and we are here with internet, and we're going to talk about sports today. It's a jam-packed show today because I have a lot to say. I have a lot to get into. I didn't get into winners and losers of NFL Week 5. We're doing that today. I didn't get to talk about the Rangers on opening night of the NHL season. I'm talking about that today. Thoughts, Buffalo Sabres, Don Granato, getting into that today. Previewing Thursday Night Football. Phillies Braves, Kershaw start last night. We'll get into that. And also just more Major League Baseball playoff thoughts because honestly, the past couple nights have been fantastic. Way to go, baseball. It is a different sport when you get into October. Just is. 162, that's a slog. When you have games every other night and they mean everything, pitch by pitch, I buy in. Just news and notes from the day. If you're not aware, the game this evening, which was scheduled for 9:30, Yankees Guardians, has been postponed. Rain out in New York. That will be tomorrow afternoon. Game 2 is now tomorrow afternoon, no longer tonight at 9:30. So 2:07 first pitch tomorrow, Shane Bieber, Nestor Cortez. Game 3 goes Saturday. So they have to travel after the game, head to Cleveland, and this is how it works for all these series. National League games, both series are 1-1. Padres beating the Dodgers last night, the Bravos tying the series with the Philadelphia Phillies. If those series go 5, they will be back in the first location the day after Game 4. So here's how it goes. National League tomorrow, Game 3 in Philly. Game 3 in San Diego. Game 4, the next in the same location. If it goes Game 5 is Sunday. That means teams travel the day of the Game 5, or the night before, if you will. So back-to-back on an elimination-type winner-go-home day for the Yankees and Guardians. If that series goes 5, they play tomorrow in the Bronx. They fly to Cleveland for the weekend. They will play games 3 and 4 Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Game 5 would be back in the Bronx on Monday. That's right. 2 flights, multiple flights, and then you have to get back to the original spot, 4 games in 4 days, 2 different places. That's a lot. But that's the breaks. You have the lockout, time's limited. You don't want to play many games into November. In particular in Cleveland, guess what? They're going to have a bunch of snow by then. It's going to be freezing cold. Bronx too. It's cold in the Bronx. I've heard it gets real cold in the Bronx this time of year. Yankee Stadium, Spike Lee bundled up. I'm sure he'll be at the game tomorrow afternoon. He'll find time with his busy schedule. But that is the news of the day on that front. Now, Aaron Rodgers a few years ago told everybody to relax. Just relax. We're fine. And it was at this time the Packers, I believe, were 2-3. People were worried about Aaron Rodgers. They were concerned that he wasn't going to have any success. They go on to win a division. They make the playoffs. So his statement of relax made a whole lot of sense. I can't say relax today, but what my word of the day to everyone, to every fan base out there, is one of 82. Whether you won a game last night, you lost a game, you cried, you laughed, however you look at it in the National Hockey League, it's one of 82. The Montreal Canadiens, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Seattle Kraken, Los Angeles Kings, all these teams have lost already on the season. But you know what you did? You lost one of 82 games. Now, that one of 82, the one of, say, 50 losses, could be added to your resume by the end of the year. But you have a long period of time to figure out if you are a contender, whether you are a pretender, before we get to that point. I say one of 82 to one fan base in particular. And that would be to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Because Toronto Maple Leaf Twitter, Toronto Maple Leaf fans, Canadian fans in general, are dramatic. They are, how can I put this diplomatically? Irrational. They are temperamental. I could throw a lot more verbiage. I could throw a few more adjectives into the mix. But you get my gist. You get the cut of my jib right now. Leafs fans, relax. One of 82. Does it mean more that you lost to the Montreal Canadiens? Maybe in your heart. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't. A loss to the Montreal Canadiens, a loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets is the exact same thing. It is. And I've grown to see that as I've lost fandom. When I dropped fandom to do this podcast, as I view sports now way more and I enjoy it way more than I did when I was a fan. Losing to Montreal, losing to Columbus, exact same thing if you're a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. No different. If you wagered with your neighbor who's a Montreal fan, you lost that bet, okay, that's your decision. Wager with him on the Columbus game. If you lose money, you win money. It's the same money. Just is. You might go on Twitter and somebody makes fun of you because you lost the Montreal Canadiens, a team who will be in the bottom of the standings in the Eastern Conference. I agree with that. But in the grand scheme of things, when the Toronto Maple Leafs are chugging along, when they're having a good season, the Montreal Canadiens are playing games where they're hanging tough like the Ottawa Senators of the last 3 to 4 years, all of that will be irrelevant. One game does not define a season. One game does not define a player. But you can look at players, you can look at situations and deduce things from one game. And what I see across the league, I have a theme. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But something, I'll look at the Leafs side of things here for a minute just to start the show. Would I be concerned if I was a Maple Leaf fan about Jake Muzzin? Yes, but seeing him play poorly last night is not a new development. I was talking about Jake Muzzin and having concerns about Jake Muzzin before the season started. If you're listening to me on a daily basis, if you're following my line of thinking, if you think, hey, that Noah guy, he knows a little bit about sports, which I think I do, then you're right there with me. Jake Muzzin didn't play much in the preseason. Jake Muzzin didn't practice a whole lot in training camp. So is it fitting that he played poorly last night? Absolutely. Is it an excuse? No. But what I'm telling you is there's a reason why he played poorly. I think there's a couple. Jake Muzzin's gotten injured the last couple of years. Jake Muzzin has lost a step, and Justin Hall is a terrible defense partner for whoever he's paired with. Justin Hall is a turnover machine, and something Leaf fans know all too well. I don't need to reiterate this to all of you. Justin Hall is not a top 4 defenseman. Justin Hall can be on your bottom pair, play sheltered minutes, in offensive zone situations where he doesn't have to make big decisions, and he's an adequate guy. He can be your 5-6. He can play your 12 minutes a night, and he can do that efficiently enough. But is he a guy that can log 20, 25 minutes? Absolutely not. And putting him with Jake Muzzin, who's lost a step, who isn't as fast as he used to be, who's had head injuries, now he's got a back problem. The guy's breaking down in front of us. I said I wouldn't be surprised if Jake Muzzin was on LTIR to Robidas Island in the next 6 months, and I keep that same sentiment. He's one bad injury away from his career being over. That might sound harsh. It's not harsh. It's the truth. It's brutal honesty. That's me to my core. But putting a Muzzin with a Hall, we've seen it. It's not a good. It doesn't work. It's like putting Nylander at center. It doesn't work either. Now, all that being said, Muzzin and Hall sucked last night. Cost the team the game. Multiple goals. Jake Muzzin turned the puck over, couldn't get the puck out of the zone. Montreal went on to score. Caulfield's first goal. That's Muzzin turned the puck over, couldn't get the puck out of the zone. Caulfield scores. The last goal of the game. Hall turns the puck over at the offensive blue line. Goes back into the zone. Muzzin turns it over again. Before you know it, the unicorn himself, Josh Anderson, who had a great game, by the way, puts it in the back of the net. It's as simple as that sometimes. The fact that Toronto didn't look good, I'm not that concerned with that. It's game 1. Team didn't play well. No, they didn't. No doubt about it. But did Tampa look good Tuesday night? No, they looked terrible. But they were terrible in game 1 the year before. They lost 6-2 to the Penguins. History lesson. They lost 6-2 to the Penguins. They went on to go to their 3rd straight Stanley Cup final. 1 of 82. You can deduce things from one game, but it's about looking at it and seeing it before. Austin Matthews. Am I worried he's going to have a bad season after one game? Absolutely not. I don't think he played well at all last night. He had no impact on the game. He didn't have any great scoring chances. I think he scores at least 2 goals tonight. There's an early prediction. They got the Caps, who are on a back-to-back as well. Caps got to travel to Toronto. Charlie Lindgren gets his first start as a Cap. Toronto will win tonight 6-2. Another prediction for you. They'll bounce back. Matthews is a point tonight. He'll look at McDavid, look at Pastrnak, be a little pissed off that they had a great first night. He'll have a good night tonight. At least 2 goals. Maybe he gets 3. I'll start to the season. I saw things that I liked last night from the Toronto Maple Leafs in all that crap. 1, Michael Bunting had a great game. It's one game, but he had a great season last year. And something for me from him is he's had one season that's relevant in his NHL career. 26-year-old rookie, should never have been nominated for the Calder, all that crap notwithstanding. He's a very efficient player. And he works great with Marner and Matthews. He keeps them from going into the corners. He's a workhorse type guy. He was one of the better players last night, truthfully. I thought he played fantastic. He was all over the puck. He scored the first goal of the season for the Maple Leafs. Loved his game. Bunting, good start to your year. Aubé-Kubel. I liked his game. Nick Aubé-Kubel, who's with Colorado, in and out of the lineup. I think he'll play. I didn't particularly like any defense. I thought Morgan Rielly played well last night for Toronto. I thought he had a decent game. And I'm not the biggest Morgan Rielly fan, as you all know. There's enough people that are. I don't have to be. That's one of my favorite lines. Anytime somebody says something to me, are you a fan of this player? And I love getting that in conversation. I love having conversations about sports. Truthfully, I struggle with any really other conversation because I'm not that interesting. But if somebody brings up sports to me and says, are you a fan of this player? I'd love to come back with, no, not really, but enough people are, so I don't have to be. It's a great way. People know how to respond to that. But that's a little guilty pleasure of mine. If you ever get that line, you know that we're cool because I like throwing that out there. But I like that part. Rielly played okay. Matt Murray was not at fault last night. The Caulfield first goal, I don't know how many people are stopping that, quite frankly. Second goal, real nice shot. Anderson, that was just a back. And even the Monahan goal, that's a bounce play, bad luck type of situation. So for Toronto, it's a bad first game. My biggest concern that I can look at is Muzzin and Hall are your 3-4 defensemen. They can't be. So two things need to happen this season. Here's why you play 82 games. Rasmus Sandin has to become a top 4 defenseman, which he has the potential to do. I haven't seen it yet, but can he become a top 4 defenseman? I believe he can. He's got the tools, he's got the makeup, but he needs to show it. I'm not just handing him a role. I'm not going to say he's going to be a top 4 defenseman because that's presumptuous because I haven't seen shit yet. But does he have the ability? Absolutely. Asking Mark Giordano to fill that role is a recipe for disaster. It's another Band-Aid on a bullet hole. Mark Giordano, I don't think Mark Giordano is going to have a great year. I don't think Mark Giordano, that signing, yeah, you got him for cheap. There's a reason you got him for cheap because that's what he's worth. He's 39 years old. He wasn't a great skater to begin with. He's a 5th, 6th defenseman. He cannot be asked to do more. Period. End of story. No comma, nothing. He's a place filler. He's a guy that, again, sheltered minutes. 11 to 14 a game for Mark Giordano. No more than that. He can't be asked to be a top 4 defenseman. So for Toronto, this year, I think they have one real option on this team to emerge as a top 4 defenseman. It's Rasmus Sandin. And the big worry is Muzzin going to be able to play like a top 4 defenseman by the end of the year? I have my doubts about that. Because I see him deteriorating year after year, and injuries affect your play. There's a reason we celebrate a Sean Monahan goal as much as we do. You know why? Because he never plays. He's always hurt. He's always got something wrong. And I feel for the guy. He had 8 surgeries in one offseason one year. He's got a huge heart. He's a great competitor. I think they love him in Calgary. But eventually, you can't play anymore. We're not going to keep you. So you have to hope Sandin can emerge, but you might be looking for another one because I'm not sure Muzzin can hold up. Toronto's defense has been their issue for years. It's never up front. Goaltending, they seem to change every year. I still believe Mark Giordano, Jake Muzzin are temporary fixes, are Band-Aids on bullet holes. If you're building a house, they are not the foundation. They're the wrapping you put on the screen door that's there for a little while until your door is put in. It's a quick fix when you need something. They're a chocolate bar when you're starving and you pull into a Circle K. That's what they are. They're filling. They can do a job for a little bit. When you need a meal because you're starving, you don't turn to the chocolate bar. One game. Leafs will be fine. They win tonight. Montreal. A couple of things. I liked how their youngsters played a lot last night. Caden Gooley is going to be a player. He's going to be a player. He had ups and downs last night, but that's how it's going to be. He's a young defenseman. How he battled. He had a couple of long shifts where he was stuck out there with David Savard for long periods of time against the Leafs last night, but he battled through it. I don't think he played great. I don't think he played terrible. He was decent. It was his first NHL game. He played decent. But I love him. If I'm Montreal, I'm thrilled he's on my team. Honestly, Zerback, hard name for me to pronounce. It's Xheraj. I watched him at the World Memorial Cup with the Hamilton Bulldogs. The kid's tough. Big. He was an undrafted player. Montreal scoops him up. He's 21, playing in the NHL, just freshly out of the OHL. I like his game. He's a good player. Montreal, to me, is going to be entertaining this year. They're not going to win many games, but I think they'll be in them. Like I said, they're going to be the pesky Senators, where the Senators have a slow start. They lose a lot of games, but towards the end of the year, their youngsters are playing. They make it tough on a Tuesday night. It's 3-2 and not 6-2. They got Jake Allen. They got some veterans there. Josh Anderson had a fantastic game last. I mean, he if he is motivated, the guy is just a different player. He always gets up for the Leaf games. He's had a great trajectory against the Leafs since he became a Montreal Canadian. But I'm sure Montreal is looking at this saying, can we get Josh Anderson to play consistently well? We'll get a haul for this guy at the trade deadline. Tell you a guy they won't get a haul for. I don't need a sample size on this. Mike Hoffman, my God. How the mighty have fallen, or how the mediocre have fallen. I guess he kind of fell with that scandal with Erik Karlsson that never really had an end to it. Did his girlfriend at the time do it? Was Erik Karlsson lying? I don't know. Don't care. But yikes. That's rough. How many teams are taking that? He might be Laval Rocket by the end of the year because he is bringing nothing to the table. Since becoming a Montreal Canadian, he's been a complete afterthought, and he plays like an afterthought. Jurek Slafkovsky. I thought he had a really tough first period. Didn't look like he was an NHL player. Slow, indecisive, pensive. But as the game moved on, he got better. Made a good defensive play on Austin Matthews. Got an assist on a goal. Was in good situations. Positionally sound. He's not an elite NHLer yet, not even close. But something I think if you're a scout or if you're just watching a game, you look for how a player is on the ice. And it's tough for Montreal because they have so many young players that you're like, okay, how does this guy look? Like Jordan Harris had moments where he's terrible and great last night. Because at times I'm like, wow, poor Harris. But then I watch him later in the game, I really like him. Slafkovsky, I would have took him first overall. I think it's the right pick. And again, if he plays 60 games for Laval this year and 20 as a Montreal Canadian, that does not mean it's the wrong pick. That does not mean he's going to be a bust. That means they think they're doing what's best for his development. Period. I thought he had a decent game last night. No better, no worse. He had a decent game. But just to juxtapose that, last evening, I wanted to watch all the games that I could. I couldn't sleep, so I ended up staying up till about 2 in the morning watching. I watched the Oilers comeback against the Canucks. We'll get into that. But I also watched a whole lot of Kraken Ducks at 11 o'clock last night. Really entertaining game. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, I watched till the end. Overtime, Troy Terry. Yeah, that was my Wednesday night, watching the Ducks against what was it again? Ducks Kraken. Yes. Matty Beniers, 2 points last night. He looked good. Matty Beniers, my Calder Trophy winner. I like watching the Kraken. I'm going to watch the Kraken a lot this year, but that story for another day. Anyway, I watched the Kraken and the Ducks. And before the season, we heard that Slafkovsky was behind schedule. And we hear that, well, Savosky might play in Laval. Was that the right pick? Oh my God, his development. Whole bunch of hoopla. Now, if you recall, back in July, I think it was July 14th, the draft, so 3 months tomorrow. If you recall, on July 14th, the presumptive first pick in the 2022 NHL draft was one Shane Wright. And Shane Wright didn't end up going first overall, much to many people's chagrin. He dropped to number 4 to the Seattle Kraken. Savosky became the first Slovakian player to be taken first overall, went to Montreal. The number of pieces went before him. You saw Logan Cooley drop. You see other guys. Shane Wright became a member of the Kraken. And something you didn't hear in the preseason, for some reason, is that, well, should Shane Wright go back to the OHL? Is Shane Wright ready for the National Hockey League? Is he going to be a great player? Is he going to win the call? They didn't hear any of that chat. Well, ladies and gents, I have a theory as to why. Number one, media are lazy and they don't like to cover stories outside of Canadian teams. That's just the truth. It's tough for people in the media to watch other games other than the Canadian teams. God, it's a chore to get NHL center ice. It's tough to go to watch Kraken Ducks. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's tough. I like to watch bad teams. Sacramento, Buffalo Sabres start tonight. Ottawa, 8 o'clock. Be watching it. But it's tough. But media members are lazy. A lot of these voters, Chris Johnston, will only watch the Leafs. And then you go to bed. Which, sure, their sleeping schedule is a lot healthier than mine. But anywho, number 2 reason why Shane Wright was never discussed, was never thought about. Maybe this guy is not going to be a productive first season. Maybe he should go back. Savosky is a European player. And although we've adopted the European player and we know they're good, we don't have the Don Cherry old school method of, well, he's a European, he's soft, he can't play anymore. That's out to pasture. But I still think we have this thought, we have this deductive reasoning that we can't criticize a player born in Ontario. Savosky's born in Slovakia. Who cares? What do we know about Slovakia? Chara played there. He's gonna be okay. So you're gonna take a Slovakian first overall. That thought still exists. Shane Wright, a good Canadian boy, London Knight. We heard about him forever, but we can't criticize the Ontario-born kid. We can't talk about him because we're too lazy, but also, well, he's a Canadian and he's from Ontario. McDavid is from Ontario. All these great players that get taken high in the draft are from Ontario. You never hear anything negative about them before the draft, after the draft. Just think about it for a second, and you'll know I'm right. Shane Wright is getting the Ontario tax, which in taxes, in life, taxes stink. You got to pay them. In this case, the Ontario tax is you get this force field, this vortex where you do not get any of the arrows directed at you. You don't get any of the slander. You don't get any of the negativity because you have the Ontario tax. You're safe. These other guys, they got to pay the tax. You got to prove it to us. You got to make us earn our attention. Oh, Savosky played like crap in the preseason. Okay. How did Shane Wright look? Oh, well, the game started at 10 o'clock. I couldn't watch it. Really? Okay. Well, is he going to play this year? Well, yeah, he'll play. Shane Wright will play this year. Yeah. Okay. Is he ready? Oh, we couldn't tell you if he's ready. Don't know about that. But that is my theory, ladies and gents. It's the Ontario tax where you get the benefit. You are the beneficiary. You are collecting taxes from these Europeans, from people from New Brunswick, from anybody not from Ontario, because you have to be a good hockey player because you're from Ontario. Just outside the GTA, Shane Wright. Yet, if you think about it, why should Shane Wright be protected? Just think about this for a second, people. He dropped in the draft, which can happen, but he did drop. He was first overall all year, then he ends up not going first overall. I think Connor Bedard's going to go first overall. I don't see him dropping. Just a thought. Did McDavid drop out? No. Eichel. Didn't talk about Eichel because he went second. He's an American. You got to pay the tax. McDavid from Ontario went first overall, all positive, never dropped out. Shane Wright, one of the rare Ontario-born players that went first overall and yet, or was supposed to go first overall but didn't in the draft, dropped to 4. Didn't even go second. And yet you don't hear anything negative about him. Nothing. He threw a fit at the draft, at the Montreal Canadiens brass because they did not take him. He gave them the look, the crook eye, the raised lip, however you want to describe it. Shane Wright was angry, and he let them know that they made a mistake by not taking him. And he looked petulant. He looked childish. He looked weak by all accounts. Maybe just my account. But my account is more important than their accounts. I think we'd all agree. Maybe you wouldn't, but maybe some of you jump on board with me. Any Hoosier. All those negative things. It's a lot of negative things. It's not a lot of positive. Didn't hear about a great training session this summer. Didn't do a piece on Shane Wright in Seattle. Didn't have anybody fly in. Mark Masters didn't go do a cover piece. Mark Rowe, anybody at TSN, anybody at Sportsnet didn't fly Jeff Merrick in to do 32 Thoughts with Shane Wright. God, these companies got to cover one team. It's a lot of work to cover one team. A lot of resources, a lot of money. But Shane Wright gets the Ontario tax. He avoids the bullets. He avoids the arrows. Good for Shane Wright. Played 6 minutes last night. Looked worse than Slafkovsky. Slafkovsky played 11, 12 minutes. Not a whole lot. I'm not saying Slafkovsky. I just admitted Slafkovsky didn't play that well. He played okay. Shane Wright had 5 shifts. Played 6 minutes and 2 seconds. 6 minutes and 2 seconds, first game of the season. You think you'd give him a little rope. Didn't, Dave Haxtell. Maybe the GM will say, hey, we got to play Shane Wright more tonight, the second game of the season. I'm curious. I'll be watching some of it. Kings Kraken this evening. But we don't hear about all the stories. You don't hear about all the players that could be bad this year, that maybe shouldn't be playing in the National Hockey League. It's funny. 6 minutes for Shane Wright in a game that went to overtime. And again, my only big point through all of this, just because you get sent back, just because you go play in the American Hockey League, just because you don't have a Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews type rookie campaign doesn't mean you're not going to be a good NHLer for a long time. Doesn't mean that. But it's funny how some people get the negativity from the jump, get the negativity in your face, and others don't get any of it from these shows, from podcasts, from Sportsnet Central, whatever you want to call it. You don't hear much about it. You'll hear about it for the first time when this player is sent back to London. Shane Wright will be in London by November. I said that a couple days ago. I'm reiterating it now. I will come back to this conversation if I'm wrong. It's fine when you're not ready to play in the NHL. He's not. You could argue Slafkovsky isn't either. Go back, play another year in junior. McTavish did, had a great year. Made the Memorial Cup, won a World Junior gold medal. Shane Wright didn't go to the World Juniors. in the summer. Have your opportunity, have your moment in Moncton and Halifax in December. I'll see you there. But you don't hear about that. But you talk about year over year, and you talk about experience. You need that time to get better. The word of the day for me, and kind of looking at the first 2 nights of the NHL season, is growth. I'm going to start with Cole Caulfield. Cole Caulfield's an excellent example. Yes, Cole Caulfield's older than Slafkovsky, older than Shane Wright. But last season, Cole Caulfield was sent back to Laval. Cole Caulfield was having a disastrous year. People in Montreal were worried that he was going to be a bust. And when he was sent down, it was as if the emperor had fallen. It was as if the Pope had been assassinated. It was not good in La Belle Province. However, sometimes sending a player back, resetting, having him feel it can lead to growth. From day one last year to day one this year, Cole Caulfield looks like a different player. Cole Caulfield looks better than he did at the end of last year. His skating ability, his confidence, his release were on full display last night. I see him score goals, but I also see a player that can be incredibly creative, that can be incredibly successful just by osmosis. To me, Nick Suzuki, who people know is a good player, but I think can still be underrated, like Patrice Bergeron in Boston, because there's so many more skilled players around him. Suzuki is quietly creative. He's a quiet, just a death nail, if you will. He does his work in silent. Real bad boys move in silent, and that's what I think Nick Suzuki is. But when you are surrounded by creative people in life, in sports, however, whenever, I think it makes you better. It makes you a better person, a better worker, however you want to use the example. When you are surrounded by people that push you and you're surrounded by people that are creative, you can do better things. If you're surrounded by negativity, you are what your surrounding is. If your surrounding's messy, you're probably a mess. But if you're surrounded in a positive scenario with people that are believing in you, people that really care, that's going to be good. Suzuki's young, Caulfield is young, but to me, Suzuki is wise beyond his years, and seeing him with Caulfield is a sight for sore eyes. Caulfield looks way more confident. He looks rejuvenated, and he looks like he's primed to have a big season for the Montreal Canadiens. I was beyond impressed. It was one game. I get that. But you can also look at body language and the way the guy is playing. Cole Caulfield's not going to be a guy that finishes with 16 goals this year. He gets 30 plus. That release alone is something that you can't teach. Montreal has a goal scorer. Montreal has maybe a number one center if you build the right team. Number two center for sure. If you build the Boston model, yeah, you can have a number one center. That's tough to do. Boston's one of the most consistently great organizations in hockey, in pro sports, over the last 10, 20 years. That's difficult. But if you have a potential number one center in the right format, you have a top winger that can give you 30 to 40 goals a year, which I think Caulfield can, and you got to wait on a defenseman. Is it Gooley? Is it Zerba? I think Gooley has the potential to be a guy that really does this. He's a physical guy. He needs to, I think, still grow into his body, accept your physical game at the NHL level. You're not going to be Shea Weber. I don't think he doesn't have a shot. But could he be Shea Weber-esque in his ability on the ice? I think so. I saw good things from Montreal, but I saw growth from Cole Caulfield. Another word, growth, young player. Keandre Miller of the New York Rangers. I loved Keandre Miller last year, and he was having his ups and downs on a team that was young, inexperienced, and they gave it their all against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And there were games where Keandre Miller was not ready for it. Turnover machine, indecisive, bad pinches, just structurally not a sound defenseman yet. All the offensive ability in the world, but had some qualms about him. I look at him the other night. He played 23 minutes, and yeah, it's night one, but he played against Tampa. So that was a big game for New York. I felt that they had some life in that game. Zibanejad was fired up. They wanted to win. They wanted to prove a point, whether it means anything to Tampa or not. It's irrelevant. It meant something to them. Keandre Miller looked great. Again, growth. It takes time. For Shane Wright, for Slafkovsky, Matty Beniers, Owen Power, Mason McTavish, all these players are coming in at 19, 20 years old because they went for another year in junior. They went for another season in college to have another season before they got to the NHL level. Troy Terry, he broke out at 24. It happens differently for different people. Alexis Lafreniere had his breakout moment last year in the playoffs where people said, well, this is a guy, that guy looks like a guy you draft high. Yeah, he went first overall. Growth, development is not a linear path. It's not the same for everyone. It's extremely difficult to play at the NHL level. Keandre Miller, to me, is going to be a star. Keandre Miller has all the potential to be a number one defenseman. And that's perfect if you're New York and you have Foxy and you have Keandre Miller. I'm not sure both guys can live in the same household forever when it comes to structurally, when it comes to money. Maybe Artemi Panarin stone overboard, which I'd have no problem with. But I see the growth. I see the potential. He's still got more to bring, but the dude's a stud. Another guy, growth that I need to see more of to firmly believe in, but something I credit. I credit coaches that start a season and they put a young player that hasn't lived up to expectations yet in good positions. Gerard Gallant gets my clap of the day, and he gets my that's how you coach of the day. How about Gerard Gallant putting Capo Caco on a line with Chris Kreider and Mika Zibanejad? Yes, put him with two players who arguably were the two best forwards on that team last year. Mika Zibanejad, this isn't a debate anymore. Mika Zibanejad's a number one center in the National Hockey League, no doubt about it. Mika Zibanejad was right up there with Foxy as New York's best player in the postseason last year. He was that damn good. Also, the fact that this guy has an unreal motor, his compete level is through the roof. You talk about growth. When he started in the league to where he is now, it is night and fucking day. But when you have a player that from all accounts has underperformed, you haven't seen much from yet, and you see Gerard Gallant start his season putting Caco on a line with Kreider, to me, the de facto captain, and Zibanejad, the other great leader on this team, full of great leaders on the New York Rangers, it makes too much sense. Great coaching, and that line was unbelievable on night one. Keep them together. Caco played well. He was physical. He was involved. He nearly scored a goal. Zibanejad scores twice, including a shorthanded goal. This New York team is going to win a lot of games. But you want to see what Caco can bring. And if he's playing with these type of guys, he was taken second overall. And maybe he won't be second overall type impactful. But if you draft well enough, if you trade, if you scout well enough, and you find talent, maybe that player doesn't have to be put in that situation. On New York, Lafreniere still has more meat on the bone, but you look at it and you say, well, Kakko isn't going to be a great winger. Could he be Michael Bunting? Could he be a guy that gets pucks and gets 25 to 30 goals a year because he plays with great players? Yeah, I think he can. If Michael Bunting can get 25, 30 goals, Kakko can. No offense, Michael Bunting. But I'm just looking at the development. Sometimes it's about putting the player in the right situation, and if the work ethic is there, it's forgetting about where you took him in the draft, and it's about how can he help us? Where can we slot him so that we're a better team? Not that our ego, not that our scouts feel vindicated because he was second overall and, okay, he has to play here. Let's put him with our two best players up front, arguably, and see what he can do. And yes, I'll take Zibanejad and Kreider every day of the week over Panarin. Fuck Panarin. Got stopped on the breakaway. I hate the way he plays. I'll never enjoy Artemi Panarin. I'll leave that for the analytic nerds. But that's good coaching. That's intelligence. That's how you approach it. Maybe you put him with these guys, and maybe he's a Michael Bunting, and he can transition into something more. But sometimes it's just how can we utilize this guy the best? New York, this season is about winning a championship. It was last year, but it was more of we hope. That's past. It's about how can we win this year? How can our team get better? How can players improve? So maybe they're a bargaining chip. Maybe Kakko's flipped to the Chicago Blackhawks. I don't know. I do think Patrick Kane will end up a New York Ranger. But how do we get better? How can we put ourselves in the best position? I'll tell you. You do what Gerard Gallant did. Kudos to Gerard Gallant because he deserves that credit. Good for you. What else? Oh, I guess have my mea culpa of the day. It's a one-day mea culpa because I don't think this is going to last, but I do have to give credit to David Krejci of the Boston Bruins. I have been open and honest about the fact that I didn't think bringing David Krejci back was a big move for the Boston Bruins. I don't think it was a smart move for the Boston Bruins, and I think it was a legacy bring back that was desperate by Don Sweeney and co there to try to win a Stanley Cup when you are on the verge of being outside of winning a cup for a long period of time. However, that is not always the theme that people like. Maybe David Krejci has a great season, although he played in Czech Republic last year and he was pretty terrible. Game 1 back in the NHL last night, they're playing the Capitals, and David Krejci finishes with 4 points. For one night, David Krejci, you made me take one to the pills, and I applaud you for it. 4-point game is a 4-point game. I don't care who's it against. I don't care when it is. You couldn't have had a better start. You couldn't have had a better return to North America. Better return to the Bruins. They must be thrilled. Do I think that this is going to be a long, extended period of time where David Krejci is a significant piece of the Boston Bruins? I do not. But when somebody does something that I predicted wouldn't happen or wouldn't be productive, I have to point it out. Other people that do these podcasts, do shows, they don't. I do, because it's important to remember what you said and point it out. It's important to me. When you're wrong in life, you should admit it. That's how you grow as a person. Never admitting failure, never admitting fault. If you're not improving, you're staying the same. And believe me, I do not want to stay the same person all the time. Although I'm pretty great. pretty great now, but I mean, come on. I need to eventually grow up and know that, the mustache, long hair look is probably not what I should be going for. Probably not the optimal look. But that being said, I was complimented again on my hair today. It was from a man, but I will say I don't care. People enjoy it. I mean, people enjoy it. Not many women have approved of it yet. A few. Not enough, but a few. It's always a few and never many, but I digress. Credit to David Krejci and, of course, David Pastrnak. 4-point night to start the year. Tell you what, Boston, I think Bergeron's done after this season. Krejci will be forced to be done after this season. There's another little prediction for you. Marchand won't be done after this year, but a lot of injuries. I love Marchand though. You will still have McAvoy. Your goaltending situation will be solved, but you're getting older. You want to remain relevant. You want to remain active in free agency where players will think about coming to your team. David Pastrnak needs to be brought back. He's a unrestricted free agent at the end of this season. David Pastrnak is one of the 20 best players in the NHL. I believe he was 26 on the list, which is absurd. Artemi Panarin was higher than Pastrnak. They're not even fucking close. Pasternak's a way better player. I'll take him on my team every day of the week over Artemi Panarin. I'll take a tuna fish sandwich before I take Artemi Panarin on any team. I'll repeat that. I will take a tuna fish sandwich over Artemi Panarin on my team. Anytime, any place, tuna fish sandwich. And let me point this out. I don't eat fish. I hate tuna. I hate the smell of tuna. But Artemi Panarin is that stinky. I don't want it. David Pastrnak, I'll take all the time. One of the best players in the world. One of the best goal scorers in the world. Got one of the best personalities. He's just a stud player. Bring him back, Don Sweeney. He's been making $6.6 million the last 6 seasons. Haven't heard one complaint about his contract. No begrudgingness, nothing. He was a great soldier, and he made your team better. We talked about taxes earlier. And when you know you might re-sign to a team that stinks, when you know that some of your best buds might be leaving, going off, might be going to live in Miami, but maybe Bergeron stays in Boston. I wouldn't. That traffic there, one-way street, and you could go live in the heat, but hey, that's his life. I wouldn't stay in Boston, but maybe he'll want to. But if you know your buddies aren't going to be at the barn every day, your team's not going to be that good, and you might be going through a rebuild. You might have to fire your GM. Who knows what happens with the coach? I'd be wanting some more money. David Pastrnak is a $10 to $12 million player every day of the week. Don Sweeney, pay the man. Or you're going to let him get to unrestricted free agency because I think Boston's going to make the playoffs this year, so that means you're not going to trade him at the trade deadline, and he'll walk for nothing. That's a good solution. Teams, you can sign these guys. Just don't give them a no trade clause. Because I think some players will want to be traded because if you're on a bad situation. Re-signing a player doesn't mean he's with you forever. It doesn't. Give him a new deal, Boston, because he'll be trade capital if you don't want him in the future because you're going through a rebuild, or he will be the face of your franchise going through a rebuild when all of your great veterans, Boston Hall of Fame players are gone. You need him. He's important. He keeps you relevant either way. He keeps you competitive, or he keeps people coming to the rink if you're shit. Pastrnak, I went to a Boston game last May. No bucket and warm-up. His ability to talk to fans, flip them pucks, that means something. He connects with Boston. He connects with fan bases, and he's also one of the best players in the world. Pay the man, Don Sweeney. I see a lot of these players, Tage Thompson, Matthias Samuelson, all these players getting big deals. And yeah, those are 2 Buffalo Sabres that come to mind, but there's more. I get it. Saw today, Travis Sanheim might get a long-term extension in Philly. They should. But I see all these guys getting pretty good money. David Pasternak's better than all of them. David Pastrnak is one of the best wingers in the world. He's a better player than Mitch Marner. That's right. He said it. I'll take, again, Don Sweeney. Pay the man. What's the holdup? You don't want to give him 8 years? Don't worry about it. You won't be there in 8 years. You'll be fired in the next 3. Come on. Come on, Don Sweeney. Give out those legacy contracts. You won't give out one to a player that's still really good. Gave it to old man Krejci. You won't give a deal to David Pastrnak. Just do it for the Duncan commercials. Come on. We want more. Don Sweeney. Oilers Canucks. Almost didn't get to this game. 56 minutes in, just breezing through. It was a great, fun show so far. I mentioned last night on Facebook, I wrote that it's only 2 days into the season, and I already have defensemen to rag on, which I do. Mentioned Muzzin and Hall earlier. I didn't even mention Evgeny Dadonov, who's a winger for Montreal, but my God, that game-time goal, that play, make you want to just take a stick and two-hand him. But then we go to Edmonton Oilers, who I'm high on. I like their team. No surprise, Connor McDavid down 3-0 last night. Gets 4 points. They win 5-3. Draisaitl gets 3 himself. That's McDavid being McDavid. But Edmonton's like Toronto. They can score a lot of goals, and they got a similar issue. Their back end. Evan Bouchard. I haven't been a fan of Evan Bouchard since the World Juniors, where he was terrible. As he was touted as being the top defenseman on the roster. Well, Edmonton, it's night 1. It is still 1 of 82. That narrative continues, and it will remain for a while. Evan Bouchard is not, and I'm going to repeat that again, is not a top 4 defenseman. Just because you don't have a replacement that can play in that role does not mean plugging a guy into that role is good. Evan Bouchard is a great shot. He's got some offensive upside. His defensive game is horrible. His play inside your own zone, horrible. Situational awareness, pretty terrible. Not horrible, pretty terrible. Evan Bouchard has more flaws than he has more cons than pros. Let's put it that way. Big shot, offensive upside, sure. He's a defenseman. And that's what comes down to it. At the end of the day for me, are you good defensively? Put up all the points in the world. Cale Makar can play defensively. Yeah, he'll put up 100 points this year. Maybe he wins our trophy. But what I do know is that Evan Bouchard defensively, he's not fucking Cale Makar. He's not Victor Hedman. He's not even Morgan Ryan. He's not any of these defensemen that put up a whole lot of points. He's going to be average at best at that. He's not better than Darnell Nurse. Sorry for everybody who hates Darnell Nurse all of a sudden. Darnell Nurse is Edmonton's best defenseman. It's not close. It's not a 2-horse race. Cody Ceci is a better defenseman than Evan Bouchard. That's right. I said it. Evan Bouchard is so frustrating to watch. And if you're an Oilers fan, it is still 1 of 82. You won the game. But I like to point out flaws because when I see a problem before it comes up, I like to be right. I like to see it before it happens. Edmonton. You don't have a whole lot of cap room. I get it. It's your own fault. Signing Brett Kulak and signing some of these defensemen that you got on the team to long extensions, I don't think is a smart idea. But hey, that's just one guy's opinion. Kulak and CC and Ryan Murray, they're Band-Aids on bullet holes. For Edmonton to win a Stanley Cup, to really be in that position, they need a top 4 defenseman. That's not a maybe, that's a certainty. I watched the Kraken last night. I don't know if they have many. Would Edmonton want to bring Adam Larson back? Let me tell you, he wouldn't hurt this team. Adam Larson paired with Evan Bouchard, and knowing what Adam Larson is as a defenseman, which is a defensive defenseman, wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm not saying you trade Evan Bouchard. I'm not saying you throw him overboard. He's not walking the plank, but he's certainly not setting sail. He is more of an anchor. He might be an anchor on this blue line if you don't find somebody. If you don't find a life raft. That I talked yesterday about Titanic briefly. If Jack can't if Jack can't find room on the life raft, he's going to drown like he did in Titanic in that piece of shit of a movie. But Adam Larson coming back to the Oilers, Seattle is going to be sellers because they're not a good team. They're going to be fun to watch though, but they're not going to be a good team. They'll have players they might sell. Jamie Alexiak, another guy I think the Oilers could look at, but getting a top 4 defenseman, priority. Bouchard, it's one game. I get it. 1 of 82. But when I see a body of work for a player for a long period of time, sometimes that's what you are. It's easier to be a Kako and find a new pivot, to find a new solution on a team when you have 2 line mates and you play the wing. For Bouchard, the one option you do have to kind of mask what's been a problem for you for most of your career, find a defense partner that is way better situationally than you are. See if Ken Holland can do that. He's going to need to if they're going to want to win. I mean, last night, good hockey. Carolina wins. Marty Netcash, one of my favorites, is a big game. But again, it's 1 of 82. Alex Ovechkin doesn't score a goal last night. Austin Matthews doesn't score a goal last night. Kucherov didn't score a goal night 1 for the Lightning. It's one game. We'll see as it goes on what happens. Lots of games tonight. And yeah, we got an interesting slate of games tonight. A few come to mind. I'll put it this, we'll talk about NHL tomorrow as we will every show. Tomorrow's going to be Big Money Friday. It's going to be a solo Big Money Friday. I'll go through every NFL game with you. I'm going to talk college tomorrow. We'll also get into the NHL. So a lot of stuff to chew on tomorrow, but also I'm saying this right now. As you all know, I've discussed this. Buffalo is my team. They're not, I don't root for anybody, but I follow a team every year closely that's not any good. It's just something I do. I enjoy it. I watched parts of 57 New Jersey Devils games last year. Buffalo is that team for me this year. It's going to be Kraken out west. I might watch a lot of Kraken hockey this year. It's a sick disease, but I might do it. Tonight, Ottawa-Buffalo. I'm interested in this game. I'm intrigued in this game. I want to see Owen Power play. And Donnie Granato, head coach of the Buffalo Sabres, got a extension. He's got a 2-year extension. He had 2 years left on his deal already, so he's got 4 more years in Buffalo. Smart decision. This is the start of it. They hired Kevin Adams, who I think's done a pretty good job because he had a mound of shit on his plate. Ownership sucked with the Pagulas. They're still there, but you don't hear about them as much. You didn't have a head coach. You had a bunch of bad contracts, and you had a culture of losing. You got rid of some of that cancer with Jack Eichel. I'm not saying Jack Eichel's a cancer everywhere, but it turned out that way. You bring in new life with a guy like Alex Tuck, who's just breathed in Buffalo. He's accepted it. He enjoys it. You name Kyle Oposo captain. Love that. Not every team, your best player has to be your captain. That's a stupid philosophy. I don't agree with it at all. Your best player might have zero charisma. Look at the Maple Leafs. Your best player might just be a guy. Sometimes your leader wants to be a guy that had to work. Kyle Oposo was nearly out of the league, had concussions, had injuries. He's battled back. He had a 20-goal season last year. You have Tuck, you have Oposo. I think you got leaders on this team in Buffalo. They're not going to win a whole lot of games. You got Craig Anderson. You got an old couple, no goalies that you're excited about long term to start the year. But I think John Granato's built a good system. Jeff Skinner had a career year last year under Donnie Granato. So Buffalo, to me, is an interesting team because I'm going to watch them tonight. I will. Other games I'm following tonight. Panthers, Islanders. Two most interesting teams to start the NHL season for me. Florida and Calgary, because of the shift, because of the players, because you're building in new cores. Both teams are projected as one of high favorites to win the Stanley Cup. I can't have either of them in my top three because I don't like cores the first season you have them to win a cup. Colorado, it took 7-8 years to find it. Tampa was together for a long period of time. Pittsburgh was built together for a long period of time. Historically, in the National Hockey League, you need time to figure it out before you ultimately win. In Edmonton, Messier and Gretzky and Curry, all those great players were together a number of years. You had to lose to the New York Islanders a few times before you ultimately won the prize. So we'll see if either of these teams can have a whole lot of success this year, but I'm curious to see if it happens. Also tonight, Calgary against Colorado. That's another game I'm going to be following. Calgary's first game of the season. Colorado played last night. They lifted the banner. They beat the Chicago Blackhawks. You should. They're on a back-to-back. But Kadri returns to Colorado. You got some history there. Should be a good game. Some good games. Full slate of games tonight. No Jets tonight. That's one thing I wanted to touch on before we pivot off of the National Hockey League. The Jets today, and I love Rick Bowness, and I can't wait to watch Rangers-Jets tomorrow night. If I can't be there live, I'm taping this game, just to let you guys know in advance. Rangers-Jets is so intriguing to me tomorrow night for a couple reasons. Number one, I love watching the Rangers play. But two, Winnipeg announced their leadership core today. And it did not include Blake Wheeler. They have 3 alternate captains this year, and they are as follows. Mark Scheifele, Josh Morrissey, and Adam Lowry. So not only was Blake Wheeler stripped of the captaincy, he's been stripped of any letter on this team. This might create friction, but I love it as a content person. I love Rick Bowness. I love the Winnipeg Jets. This is awesome for somebody like me. Great. It could be an implosion. This could be a disaster. I don't care. I love every second of it. Soak it in, people. The Winnipeg Jets are trying to be relevant. And I love it. Also, Adam Lowry getting his assistant. I love that too, because I love Adam Lowry. Such an underrated player. Really good player. Really good person. But Rick Bowness just lighting things on fire in Winnipeg. Blake Wheeler doesn't even have a letter. Oh, that is just such great fodder. That is phenomenal. That he doesn't even have a letter. And I have no problem with Blake Wheeler, but I just love this. But Scheifele has one, but yet they're connected at the hip. Oh, that's just too precious. Only thing would have made it better if Scheifele didn't. If Scheifele, Dubois, and Wheeler all didn't have, that would have been the better scenario. Give it to Morrissey, Lowry, and Kyle Connor. Oh, my God. But I love it. I love this from Rick Bowness and the brass in Winnipeg because this is just so delicious to scoop up. They're an interesting team to follow. They got the Rangers opening night tomorrow night in Winnipeg. Should be fun. Should be fun, that's for sure. But a good start to the NHL season. Really good start, and thank you to teams like the Winnipeg Jets. Thank you to teams like the Buffaloes. All these teams that are just creating havoc early in the year are fun to me. Now, before we get to baseball, tonight it's Thursday Night Football. We got the Washington football team, otherwise known as the Washington Commanders, and the Chicago Bears. Early prediction, this will be a better game than the Denver Colts game that we saw last Thursday. On paper, it should be worse. You have the 2-3 Bears, somehow, against the 1-4 Commies, or Washington football team. Carson Wentz gets called out this week by his head coach. Ron Rivera was asked, why are the NFC East having all this kinds of success and you're not? He said, quarterback. He had to walk that back, and maybe he's trying to motivate Carson Wentz. I don't know, but it was a direct shot at your QB, who you went out and traded for in the offseason. You're 1-4. You need this game. You're at home. Good news. Brian Robinson Jr., who was a Alabama running back, if you recall, week 2 in the preseason, he was involved in a carjacking. He was shot 6 times in the leg. He is going to start tonight for the football team. He'll make his NFL debut. Great story for Brian Robinson. So I'm happy for him. No Jahan Dotson tonight for the Commies. No Lance Thomas tonight, their tight end. So they're missing some weapons. Terry McLaurin will be there. However, like I said, Brian Robinson will dress. You'll have J.D. McKissick. For the Bears, they've had no receivers to begin with, so they're all active. David Montgomery might not play. They're starting running back. They have Khalil Hebert, who's played extremely well. Tonight's line, it's a pick'em. It's a pick'em. My advice tonight's the Commanders are a better team than the Chicago Bears. They are. Carson Wentz at this point is a better quarterback than Justin Fields. I like Justin Fields more than most people. Carson Wentz loses games that he should win. He lost last year, week 18, to the Indianapolis Colts and to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Colts missed the playoffs, and the Jags only finished with 2 wins. So he loses games that he should win in big moments. And this is a big game because it's primetime. You're the only game on. Not to mention the Yankee game was postponed tonight. So in the States, because they don't watch hockey, you're either going to be watching Temple UCF on ESPN, which I'm going to try to tape and watch some of that tomorrow, because Kurt Warner's son, who's a freshman at Temple, plays. Did not know that until tonight. Temple's never on. I wasn't sure. They play UCF, UCF's a fun team. I watched UCF a few weeks ago. Plumlee, their quarterback, is a dual threat. All kinds of all-purpose yards. My advice for betting tonight, I don't have a great feel for this game. I'm going to watch some of this game because it's football and because it's Thursday. I go with the football team tonight. They're a better team. I don't see them dropping to 1-5. Matt Rule just got fired. If the Commandskins lose tonight, Ron Rivera will be fired this weekend. You cannot go 1-5, and you cannot lose a primetime game to the Chicago Bears. Fun fact, Ron Rivera was on the 1985 Chicago Bears team, so he is a Super Bowl champion with the Chicago Bears. Wouldn't it be fitting if he got fired losing to the Chicago Bears? To me, if they lose tonight, he will be fired before they play their next game. We'll revisit that. We'll see if they win tonight. But honestly, it's an intriguing game. It's not, but it is. It's not an intriguing game, but for some reason it is. Because Justin Fields, Carson Wentz, Brian Robinson Jr., Washington needs to win. The Bears win tonight. They are 3-3 after 6 games. The Commanders lose tonight. They are right up there in the driver's seat to get the number 1 pick in the draft. It would tie them odds-wise with the Pittsburgh Steelers to get the number 1 pick in the draft, which is just absurd that those are the 2 teams that would have the highest odds. It's a pick 'em. I like the Commanders to win, but we'll see. We'll talk about it tomorrow. This is an interesting Thursday night game. It is, but at the same time, it isn't, but at the same time, it is. We'll be talking about it. We'll watch it tonight, of course. Major League Baseball. This is what we waited for. Not the rinky-dink wild card series. Not the crap with the best 2 out of 3 and the new format and all that. We want divisional series, best of 5, intrigue, travel, no days off. Well, Phillies beat the Bravos in the opening game. Bravos come back yesterday, and what's interesting as a whole in the postseason is we've seen some pitching performances that have been fantastic. Started off, you look at Game 1, Shane Bieber in the wild card series. Fantastic. Just a phenomenal, just an excellent game from him. Joe Musgrove throws a gem for the Padres in the wild card round. Some of the great pitchers in baseball we see. But then you go to Max Fried. Then you go to Justin Verlander. And you go through these pitchers that are getting lit up. And they are great. Scherzer. This is a trend. The great pitchers are not having quality starts. Fried surprised me. But then you have a guy like Kyle Wright bounce back and go 6 innings of just pretty effortless, quick, easy baseball. Not much more that you can ask for from a starting pitcher. The Braves. You lose Game 1. It's a surprise loss to the Phillies. You have Game 2. You're at home. 3-hour rain delay. You know you need to win this game before you head on the road. You can't be down 0-2. This is what good teams do. This is what championship teams do. You're in a scoreless game. Zach Wheeler, who had a phenomenal season for the Philadelphia Phillies, Kyle Wright, who had a phenomenal season for the Braves, are pitching just a dual pitching matchup. After 6 innings, Kyle Wright has thrown 83 pitches. After 5 innings, Zach Wheeler has thrown 54. He's dealing. He's having no problem. But the great teams capitalize on opportunities. So in the 6th inning, Ronald Acuna Jr. III is hit on the elbow with a pitch. Pretty nasty one, looked incredibly painful. They look at him for a bit, but he takes his base. Then Dansby Swanson, who's been maybe the best defensive player in baseball so far this postseason, takes a walk. Hard-earned walk, he takes that. You follow that up with Matt Olson. Matt Olson, who you traded for because you let Freddie Freeman walk to the Dodgers, gets a RBI single, a play you could argue Rhys Hoskins could have made, but it was a hard-hit ball. Matt Olson drives the first run of the game. A single. Not a home run, not swinging for the fences, not swinging your ass off, just getting a clean single because it's the playoffs and it's about scoring runs and finding a way to win. You follow that up with Austin Riley, an invaluable member of this team, one of the best third basemen in baseball, and one of the biggest reasons why they won last year. Austin Riley, infield single, goes down to third. Yeah, it's off the end of the bat, but they can't make a play. You find a way to make an impact. Infield single. Then you follow that up with Travis d'Arnaud, one of the more underrated catchers in baseball. Has got great rapport with some of the best pitchers, including Kyle Wright, including Max Fried, including Spencer Strider. And Travis d'Arnaud, who had 3 RBIs in Game 1, picks up his 4th RBI of the postseason with a single off Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler finished the inning. He only had 87 pitches. 3 earned runs. It's not a terrible start. It's not a perfect start. But you do enough to rattle him. Kyle Wright didn't pitch the 7th inning. I might have let him pitch. But they win the game. I can't look past it with Brian Snitker's decision. But great teams find a way to win, period. The Phillies, to me, will repeat, and it's because of this. You can go Acuna, Swanson, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, d'Arnaud. Those names have clout because we've seen them do it before. We've seen this team battle. Then you get A.J. Minter in the pen. You get Raciel Iglesias, who you picked up from the Cincinnati Reds, and you finish it off with Kenley Jansen, who I don't love, but we have seen him close big moment games before. When you have the pieces to win these games, when you have the right people in the right location, you can have success. Braves win 3-0. It wasn't based off home runs. It wasn't based off somebody trying to be a hero. It was about playing small ball and getting guys on base and finding a way to drive them in. Simple as that. You juxtapose that to the Guardians in Game 1, they hit into 3 double plays. Their one run of the game comes off a solo home run from Stephen Kwan, their leadoff hitter. Maybe don't. Maybe find a way to hit it the other way. Maybe find a way to get it by the defender. Matt Olson hit a rocket to Rhys Hoskins. He couldn't make the play. 3 double plays mean you're hitting, just the way you're approaching it is not correct. The Yankees aren't some juggernaut defensive team. Garrett Cole is a good pitcher, has never been a great postseason pitcher. He's never won a World Series. Got close in Houston, did not win it. The Braves find a way to win that game. The Guardians, who have no experience, who don't hit well, hit into 3 double plays. That's the difference between a championship team and a team that could very well be out of the postseason by Saturday afternoon. I picked the Guardians to beat the Yankees. It was a stupid pick. I'm sticking with it because I made the pick. But I look at it and say they can't hit anything. Stephen Kwan, Jose Ramirez isn't getting hits right now. The Yankees didn't even hit well, but you have errors combined with a team that can't hit jack, you're not going to win many games. I don't think they get swept because I think Shane Bieber pitches another gem tomorrow for the Cleveland Guardians. That game 2 goes tomorrow, like I said, at 2 o'clock. Now, Padres-Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw is one of the best pitchers of all time. No doubt about it. 3-time Cy Young winner. He's won a World Series. However, 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned runs is a Clayton Kershaw playoff start. That is his track record in his career. Average, mediocre, 5th starter in the playoffs. That is Clayton Kershaw's MO. Last night, Clayton Kershaw being average, being okay in his start is not any way surprising. It's not out of the blue. That's Clayton Kershaw. Yu Darvish having the same start, not surprising. Yu Darvish having a great start to begin the wild card round was more surprising to me. These 2 guys having a crazy game last night where teams are going back and forth, home run after home run. Trey Turner has morphed into Barry Bonds in this series. Okay, I thought we'd see a lot of home runs in this series. But something that's not surprising is one of the GOAT pitchers of the last decade being a 5th starter in the postseason. I'm not saying Clayton Kershaw is a 5th starter, but in the playoffs, that's what kind of production he gives you. 5 innings of 3 earned with 6 hits with a couple walks. You dress it up because it says 6 strikeout on the screen on Fox, but guess what? He didn't pitch well last night, just like Yu Darvish did. What you can say is you have this eclectic game where it's 3-3 and 2 moments in the game that won it. Jake Cronenworth is the hero last night, but it's not because he hit the 2-run homer to ultimately seal the game. That is not my big take. That's not my big moment from this game. My big moment is in the third inning when Jake Cronenworth had a man on third and a man on second. Second on third, 1 out. And he has a long at-bat with Clayton Kershaw. It's back and forth. He's fighting pitches off, and you can just tell he knows he needs to get one of these runners to come in to score. He hits a ball to first base, but it's in the right position where the first baseman has no choice but to take the first base. He can't get him out at third. He can't get him out at home. And Jake Cronenworth drove in that run. He had 3 RBIs last night, but it was not the home run to me that just signaled the game. To me, it was the RBI in the third inning. Third inning. That was the difference maker. That showed me that the Padres were playing to win last night and not playing to win a home run derby. Not playing to win the All-Star game on MLB 2K. It was about trying to beat the Dodgers. Your mentality in the past has not worked because the Dodgers in the regular season have won 90% of the games against the Padres over the last 3 years, sorry. That's a stat, by the way. The Dodgers have won 90% of their games against the Padres in the regular season over the last 3 seasons. Domination, Holmes. Guess what? The dinger party, where you have to out-hit them with home runs, not working. Cronenworth setting a standard, setting a new standard for this organization and how we approach this team. That's postseason baseball. That's how you win games when the other team, and this might be crazy to say, but it's the truth, is more talented than you. Padres got Soto, got Machado, who had a great game last night. I also love that Machado's giving it to Chavez Ravine and that Dodger crowd. He's not afraid to throw it in there. I like that. He's a cocky guy, but good for him. He's got every right to be. It's Manny Machado. But yeah, interesting stuff last night in the world of baseball. But Jake Cronenworth was the hero for me. This game has started. It is now 5 p.m. We got Astros Mariners Game 2. Game 1 was incredibly entertaining. You had Yordan Alvarez hit his walk-off home run off Mr. Tight Pants, a.k.a. Robbie Ray, after the Mariners had a big lead. Mariners have Luis Castillo, who pitched a gem in the wildcard game, going up today against Framber Valdez, who has been one of the more underrated best pitchers in baseball over the last number of years. Just a constant, great presence for the Houston Astros. I mean, I'm not gonna just put that. It's an obvious statement, but it's a must-win today for the Mariners. Not to mention some programming notes. If the Mariners win today, it'll go to Game 4. Obviously, you're guaranteed a Game 4, 2 games in Seattle. Game 4, it will be an afternoon game. That'll push back the start time of the Seahawks-Cardinals game so that people can get to both events, which I think is pretty cool. But Saturday afternoon, there will be a playoff game in Seattle for the first time in over 20 years. That game is a 5:00. So Saturday, I'm just looking up the schedule. We got Braves, Phillies, 3 o'clock start time. That's Game 4. It'd be Game 4. Astros, Mariners, Game 3. Then you got Yankees, Guardians, and you've got Dodgers, Padres. That's a great Saturday mixed with some college football, which is going to be phenomenal this weekend. But we're in the second inning, no score for Mariners and Astros. I'm looking early. Castillo, clean first inning. Framber Valdez, clean first 2 innings for him. Tell you what, it took a lot of guts for the manager of the Mariners to go to Robbie Ray in that 9th inning. I think it was a stupid decision, quite frankly. You had your closer on the mound, you go to a starting pitcher. But he made good moves against the Blue Jays. I think the Mariners will win today. I think it'll go back 1-1. Luis Castillo is one of the best pitchers in baseball. I have faith in him that he'll pitch well. He was a good addition. He pitched for them well down the stretch. I mentioned he pitched well in the All-Star game. But when I get home from doing this podcast, that's what I'll be watching. You gotta love afternoon baseball. You get to come home from come home from work, and you have a baseball game on, a little 4:30 start time, and then tomorrow you have a 2:00 in the afternoon game. You get a little Friday afternoon off. That's a nice little treat. Come home to that game. Not a bad way to start the weekend. And you get a 4-pack Saturday afternoon, 4-pack Sunday afternoon with football. My God. Plus you got Panthers Sabres Saturday afternoon as well. Little hockey matinee. Not enough screens, my friends. Not enough screens, but I'll try to do it with 4. But it's phenomenal. I wanted to get to the winners and losers of the NFL. I'll do this quickly. I'm not going to go as thorough as I usually do. So, losers. I'll start with losers quickly. Losers of NFL Week 5. Arizona Cardinals. Clock management, Kyler Murray, Cliff Kingsbury, get it together. You have some talent on this team, but your coaching, your situational awareness is so bad. Kyler, maybe study, look at the clock. Maybe you could study that on Madden this week when you're playing Halo. You got all that money. Losers, coaching and referees. Roughing the passer has been talked to death this week. It can't be this. It can't be flag football. The refereeing has been horrible on this. Roughing the Brady, as I've called it, enough of it. We've seen enough as fans. We're sick of it. Refs, get it together. Coaching, my God. Matt LaFleur, Josh McDaniels, Cliff Kingsbury, Brandon Staley, the king of the nerds. Coaching, decisions. I didn't even get into the Denver Nathaniel Hackett, how bad at coaching he's been. Coaching, horrible. Come on. But also, you could throw – there's so many few coaches that are winners. Mike McDaniel, loser. Miami. There is some winning coaching going on. Way to go, Robert Saleh. Brian Daboll, obviously the biggest winner in this category. But come on, coaching stinks right now. And also loser, Green Bay. Your offense is not good. This struggling and little chunk plays – I'm not buying in. I said last week I wasn't buying into it. I said this is the new way they have to play offense. I pointed that out. That doesn't mean it's going to be successful. You lost to the Giants and they didn't have a receiver. You have to be a loser. Has to be. Now you got the Jets. Red Hot Jets. 2 straight wins coming into Lambeau. Should be fun. Winners. Speaking of Jets, New York football. New York football. Jets and Giants have a winning record. 4-1 Giants, 3-2 Jets, Daboll, Salah, Danny Dimes, Zach Wilson, Breece Hall, Saquon Barkley. Come on. Running backs, best players on these. Sauce Gardner, my guy, playing, just balling out. Tomlinson. Dexter Lawrence playing like his career's on the line for the Giants. Kind of was. New York football, clear winner, NFL Week 5. Another winner, Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill, 3 rushing touchdowns on Sunday in a New Orleans win against the Seattle Seahawks. Here's a note to Dennis Allen. I don't want to put you on the bad coaching list. Keep using him. He's not a starting quarterback. Do not put him in the quarterback position. But he can be a tight end. He can be a running back. He can be a wide receiver. He can be a fullback. Use him. He's on your roster. You're paying him a good chunk of change. Use his body before it breaks down. Yes, that's harsh, but it's also the way the game works. And finally, the final winner, parity. Look at all the teams that are 3-2. Houston is 1-2-1. They are still very much in the mix for the AFC South. Titans are 3-2. Do we have faith in the Titans? I certainly don't. Titans, yeah, they might be leading the division currently, but the Titans also are the Titans. And yes, they were the 1 seed last year, but they're also the Titans, my friends. That guy used to stay thirsty, my friends. The Titans will stay the Titans. They will always have a shadow. They will always have a worried look on their face because they are in the AFC South, and AFC South is a disaster. Parity. Somehow, the Dallas Cowboys are winning games with a backup quarterback. Parity, where you have the Atlanta Falcons covering 5 games in a row that get screwed. San Francisco 3-2, 2-3 Patriots, 2-3 Browns, 2-3 Falcons, 3-2 Jets, 3-2 Packers, 4-1 Vikings, 3-2 Dolphins, 2-3 Bengals, 2-3 Saints meet this weekend, 3-2 Ravens, New York Giants 4-1, better record, 3-2 Bucks, fraud, 3-2 Bucks, 1-4 Steelers. They stink. 1-4 Panthers against the 2-3 Rams. Look at that. See how many 2-3 teams there are? A lot of parity. 2-3 Cardinals at 2-3 Seahawks this weekend. Something's got to give. 4-1 Bills, 4-1 Chiefs. We might talk about this game tomorrow, ladies and gents. 4-1 Cowboys, 5-0 Eagles. Interesting. Then you got the 2-3 somehow Broncos against the 3-2 Chargers somehow. Not by their own competence or their own play, but look at all those 2-3 teams, 3-2 teams. They are so tight. A lot of teams playing each other this week that are 2-3. Here's another note. Houston Astros just took the lead on the Seattle Mariners. Kyle Tucker with a solo home run, the right fielder. So a big hit for him. The Astros now have a 1-0 lead in the bottom of the second inning in Houston, Texas. I have my college football top 10. I'll run that through quickly. We're going to go through that tomorrow as well. Some great games this weekend that are going to be phenomenal to break down. College football top 10. Number 1, Ohio State. They got the front runner to win the Heisman and C.J. Stroud, Marvin Harrison Jr. They don't have two of their best 3 receivers aren't even playing yet. They're crushing teams. Ohio State. Number 2, Georgia. Georgia keeps winning. They played more consistently well than Alabama recently. Number 3 is Alabama. Alabama nearly lost to Texas A&M, but Jimbo Fisher screwed that up on Sunday. Number 4, Clemson, undefeated. They beat NC State, who remains ranked. They're going to play Syracuse this in a couple weeks, who are a ranked team. They've beaten some good ranked schools. Has Clemson. They're a good team. Number 5, Michigan, undefeated. I don't think they're as good as number 5. I think they will drop, but they will not. They do play another team in my top 10 this weekend in Penn State. Number 6, USC. Interesting game against Utah Saturday night. Should be a fun one on Fox. Number 7, Tennessee. Tennessee, Alabama this weekend. Something's got to give. Some team's got to win. Some team will lose. Number 8, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State against undefeated TCU this weekend. Spicy. Number 9, Penn State, as I just said. And you have number 10, the UCLA Bruins. Chip Kelly is back. Didn't have a whole lot of success in the NFL with Philly. Had a lot of success with Oregon. Give him some time in the Pac-12. They just might sniff a college football playoff this year. USC and UCLA play each other later in the year. I think USC will get by Utah this weekend. I think both teams will win their respective games until they get to that point. Maybe Oregon can scare UCLA. Maybe. This matchup used to mean something in college football. It's going to mean something again because both these teams can flat out play. That's my college football top 10. We're going to talk more college football tomorrow. We'll get into the NFL games of the weekend. We'll recap some NHL and the Astros-Mariners game this evening. Big Money Friday tomorrow, folks. We're already at another Friday, another week come and gone. But the NHL is back. Thursday Night Football. We got lots to digest this evening before I'm back talking to you all tomorrow. But until then, enjoy your evening. And for everybody here, just remember, sometimes it's better to just be to the point.